9 only, but since you don't have access, so I'm just showing you a little overview on the 7, because in 7 we have more data compared to 9, so it might be a little better to take a look at that. And when you guys get access, you'll be logging into 9. So basically it has like added functionality now, but about almost 90% still remains the same. So the additional difference is, the doc appointment scheduling has been added, some support for MFS is there, and a couple of more features. Little different menu, but anyone who has worked in 7 can easily work in 9. So that way there is really not a big difference as such.
Okay.
So since both of you are a little bit familiar with WM, you might be familiar with the warehouse itself. So essentially that's your basic org unit as far as the warehouse management goes, which you in terms of EWM and WM, we basically map out first a warehouse in the ECC, and then we create a transfer over to the EWM side. So once we do the integration part, we will see basically a dummy warehouse is created in ECC, because all the transactions are the delivery creation and all that is basically initiated from the IM level, where it needs a warehouse in order to distribute it back to the EWM side of it. So basically our starting point becomes then ECC as such, but we'll be doing only about 5% of the work in ECC, and 95% will be done on the EWM side of it.
Quick question, Kumar. Have you seen people who currently have full-blown warehouse management move over to EWM?
Actually, that's the more common scenario, Partha, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because see, if you look at the implementations in the market today, mostly people would have existing WM. Of course, there are new clients also who are moving out from Red Prairie, Manhattan, and Catalyst, etc. But then whatever the bigger shops are, they have existing SAP WM. And so that way the knowledge of SAP WM is helpful, but it's not certainly needed. So if someone asks me a question, do I need to know SAP WM in order to learn EWM, I would say no. But if someone says, I have no background on functional side, 0, then I'll say it is a challenge, because then you don't know how to create a delivery, what way the process is flowing, what the inbound is, what is outbound. So some of these concepts, if you know, then it's easier to follow. But yes, if you know the WM, then it's you grasp more and you spend less time in getting up to speed. That's the difference between a guy having WM and non-WM as such. Did I answer it right? Is that what your context was? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, even I had been in WM for 6-7 years before getting into EWM, and most of my colleagues or who were in WM have moved on to EWM over the last 4 or 5 years. So someone moved up faster, someone later, and some are still trying to move it. At the end of the day, 5 years from now, WM is not likely to be existing, I would say, more or less. The support is going to stop, as SAP usually does, and they're not investing anything new in WM anymore. Whatever the new things are being added, they are being added into EWM side of it. So that way, if not 5, maybe 7, 8 years down the line, all these WM have to be eventually replaced with EWM. So the timing wise, it's good. I see a lot of people, in India also getting into EWM. Recently, there was jobs from like Accenture, all the locations for EWM. That means in India also they are doing that already.
Yeah.
So that way, I don't know how much is the scope in India, but definitely it's there, but maybe less than, I think top market is the Europe, the Germany and all that, where they have started it, and US is following it now. Though basically the way EWM started was the Ford and Caterpillar. These were the two companies who kind of pushed SAP to develop a equivalent model to this third-party warehouse providers like your Red Prairie and all that. So because they had to maintain interfaces and all that, and that was a big pain. So basically, if you're familiar with the background, about 7-8 years ago, or I would say actually 10 years by now. So this Caterpillar started the major project in Ford, and the core of the requirement was small parts management, because the number and volumes are too high. So that's where EWM scores now. So mostly everyone is saying that it is as good as the other or better than the other ones, but the added advantage being the integration part, where the interfaces are not extensively needed as such. When we do the integration, you'll see that it's like a one-time setup which we as a functional guy can also do it. So there's no really requirement of a lot of interfaces as such.
I knew a person who was doing that Caterpillar project, a smart guy.
Who?
He was from SAP actually.
Oh, acha.
There was a guy named Leonard Zemlinsky.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there are a lot of people. I mean, recently Caterpillar actually kind of put a closure to the project, or actually downsized, I would say, about in December, and a lot of people will let go, but still some are on site. But I believe they have kind of decided to reduce the overall team investment, and also the Caterpillar is getting a royalty from these, whatever the sales are happening from SAP.
Oh.
Yeah, because
he was there in the project. He was in the project in 2003.
Yeah, see, that's almost 10 years exactly, right?
Yeah.
That's what. So
yeah,
he's been right from the start.
Yeah, he was there, and then he left. He came to the project I was doing. He was with SAP at that time.
Sorry.
Now he left.
Now he's at.
Now he works with a different company, but he was with SAP at that time. So.
I see. Okay. Yeah, there was another guy. I am not able to recall the name. He's also been at this place for 10 years now. That was an Indian guy. So, and of course, Brian Carter is the kind of again. I think you guys might be familiar with him. So he's also one of the basically initial persons who went into EWM for that matter. Okay, so Partha, sorry, Durga Prasad, what do you understand by a warehouse? What is your understanding? I'll not ask that to Partha because he already knows. So let me understand what you think is a warehouse.
Warehouse is the place where you keep your stock and you ship out stock to your customer or to another warehouse. And warehouse is segregated into storage areas, storage bins, which is not available in IM side.
Okay. And what technically you think might be differentiating between an IM and a WM location? The two examples you gave, right? One was non-WM and the other was WM. So how does the system know that this one is a warehouse or this one is not a warehouse location?
You assign warehouse to a particular plant, then it understands it's a warehouse managed location, WM managed location. Otherwise, it's an IM only location.
Okay, great, wonderful. You answered more than what I expected. So you know the technical side. You're not technical function, technical guy. Because that's
I'm trying to
first step into the functional area. That's the first step. So you're right. Basically, if the plant S-log combination has a warehouse assigned to it, then it becomes a WM location. Otherwise, it's a non-WM location. So so basically, yes, the hierarchy is that you have a warehouse, then you have a storage type, and then you have section. Basically, which section is for grouping the bins or from the perspective of put away, and a parallel to that is a picking area on the picking side. So basically this is the core hierarchy. Other things are of course additional, but this is the minimum requirement, the storage type section and the bin. And if you have a more developed warehouse where you have different bin sizes, then you get into the level of bin types. So basically then you specify the bin types, and these bin types are then mapped out to your various HU types. One of the big differences between the WM and EWM is that the concepts of storage unit management has been taken out. So there is only HU type in EWM. So whereas in ECC side of it, you had to, the HU gets converted to an SU if you had to store it in the form of pallets and in a storage unit managed location. So that's one big difference here, which has basically kind of streamlined some of the transfers when you receive HU from vendors, and kind of you don't have to really create new numbers and all that. So let's say
You mean you can use the same HU you
exactly.
received from the vendor?
Yes, yes. You can use the same HU or your internal number range or external, whatever you define it. Basically, that's what is created in ECC. Even when we do the exercises, we'll see that, and then that gets transmitted over. Of course, the ranges are number range and assignments are still yours, the way you get it. But if your vendor is giving a different numbers, then you can repack into your own HUs and still transmit it back.
Okay.
Because when you create an inbound delivery on ECC, essentially you create a packing. So when you do that packing, it's basically generating your actually own internal number range for HU. So not precisely like you get it from vendor, but basically if you're getting it from vendor in the form of packed units, then you can pass it through with your own packing from the ECC side on the delivery side, and then the same thing gets transmitted over to EWM and it gets stored as it is. So it doesn't have to be like specifically a HU location or a SUM location like that.
So everything is HU. I don't know if is HU managed right. It's
not actually HU managed, because HU managed is another concept again, right? When you do it on the ECC side, then it's basically the HUs itself get transmitted to EWM, and you can store them as it is.
Okay. Okay.
So really, it does not distinguish between a HU management or a SU management as such.
So basically, everything has to have a number. It cannot be non-HU managed.
No, it can be non-HU managed also. So there is no SU management. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how see the HU requirement.
Okay.
And it's optional, and you can store both here. That's another difference. Non-HU and HU can go in the same place also, which is not possible in ECC.
So
it's a mixed one. Yeah. So basically, but if you want that, okay, HU not required, not allowed, or HU requirement, you can choose those options. But you have a default that, okay, allowed but not a requirement, which means your normal things can also go inside, and your HU can also go inside the same storage type. So, and of course, then, based on that, you can have your HU type checks and all that. This addition to stock option is there if you want to add stock to the same bin. That again, that's this thing you have in ECC also, but basically they have given some profiles also that you can combine all the characteristics together. So little more fields, as you see when we look at the storage type in WM. I think probably the number of options here is maybe another, like I would say, 15 fields more, which basically lets you control different things itself, additional to the ECCs, the way ECC manipulates it. And another thing you may notice that this is a 4-digit one, the storage type, right? In ECC it's 3-digit, correct?
Yes.
So basically some more flexibility, and same way other differences, the storage section is not mandatory here. In ECC that one is mandatory. Here here they have kept it as optional. So in some scenarios you don't end up using if you don't want to use it. Bin structure is almost the same way, except that you know, here the bin has to be unique.
Across storage type or across warehouse?
Across the warehouse. There you could have same bin, it has to be unique only in storage types in WM, right?
Yes.
So here that's not allowed. Your bin structure is almost the same way. We use the same LS10 for the structure in LS11, and your LS01, LS02, LS03, so they are the same T codes, but basically they have to be appended with a SCWM when you call them. Other thing they have introduced here is the activity area. So this activity area, kind of a similar concept to the picking area, but it's a little more spread out in terms that it can be used in physical inventory or your labor management and several other areas, and it's not just restricted to picking it as such. Not everywhere it's mandatory, but some areas will have to define that to create our processes. And work center role has been expanded. Basically, whatever, for example, your packing, your value-added services, or your quality, or your deconsolidation, they all are done at the work center. And the additional difference is that now the flow has been, you know, allowed to be automated. So in WM, you could not automate the process. Basically, you have to create TOs separately. And here, once you put it into a process control, then you can chain these steps, chaining of the steps or the process steps, you can say. And this is like the cross-process area where, you know, what is common to inbound and outbound, those things are they can be reached from this here, as you can see, like you know, HU. Basically, warehouse task is equivalent to your you can say TO item in a way, and warehouse order you can consider it equivalent to the TO header. But there is a difference here. Basically, here you could pull up the warehouse task across several deliveries and, you know, group them together in the warehouse order. Whereas in WM that's not possible. So generally you'll have it on the same delivery. You'll have the you can't mix and match based on your needs the TO items across the deliveries. Strategies quite a bit common across the WM, so they are almost similar, but other thing is the movement type. There is no movement type concept as such, though principally it is the same. We call it as a warehouse process type instead of the movement type. So there is really no mapping as such, direct mapping to the IM movement type. And the way this is done is through some product master indicator. We put some indicators in the product master, and that decides, what process or what movements they have to basically follow through. And then we have this labor management. Again, that's something which usually, you have a task and resource management, but then very few people would have implemented. Partha, did you run into any implementation where they implemented TRM?
No, I've been with the same client for a very long time, so a lot of things I have not used. Many people might have used things that I have not used at all in last 10 years. So.
Got you. Yeah, but generally TRM, I've run into some clients. I have not worked on it, but I know there are for example, Mercedes-Benz uses TRM, but very few clients use it. And essentially, EWM has kind of some origin out of the TRM. Quite a few concepts have coming from there. Basically, you have a task, resource, and you manage them, and then but in WM no one has implemented it, so essentially the labor and resource management is picked up from resource into the TRM, and the task is essentially picked up from the task out of that. The wordings basically are originated from that area only. RF processes, the big difference is that there are almost I think about 100 transactions out of the box. So the number of transactions here is more than what you have in WM, and that way the need for a custom development is less as far as RF goes. If you work for a big client, then basically you would know that most of them, they have to implement or custom develop RF transactions to meet their needs. Did you run into that, Partha?
Actually, where I work, we think when we went from 3.1h to 4.0, I think I did about 22 RF programs.
Right. Yeah.
So,
same thing. Even I worked in a project where there were like almost 6 years they were developing these RF transactions. A huge
and we're
project.
still doing. I mean, we are into 70, 80 right now. Some of them we stopped using and we started using new ones. But I mean, the only thing we've used RF as far as RF
yeah.
is cycle counting.
Right. You're absolutely right, and that itself requires a big team. At least I don't know what's the size, but I'm pretty sure 4 or 5 functional and 6, 7 technical people would be required to handle that kind of a project round the clock. I mean, in the sense for years, correct?
Actually, to be honest, that 22 programs we did it. I mean, like I said, I did 22, and there was another guy who did other things. We did it in 6 months. It was not easy. 6 months.
6 months? You were able to custom do that? That's interesting.
22 programs. Yeah. But like I said, it was not easy. 6 months. I was a full-time employee, so you don't get paid, right? You work Saturdays and Sundays. Anyway,
yeah, because see, when I worked on this RF transactions, typically, writing the specs would take about 2 to 3 weeks. Then the technical specs will be another 1 week or 2. Then they go to offshore where they take another 4 or 5 weeks to at least write the code and bring it back, which will be half broken. And by the time, it's in any form to be, ready to be tested by the user, it will be like 4 months for just one transaction. So I'm a little...
I tried offshore for that project actually, and then we canceled. We after 2 or 3, I mean, experience between after 2 or 3 programs. We just said no, we can't, because every time we've done many projects. Every time July 4th is a go live, and then January start date. That's it. That's how we've done many times, and there's no changing in the date. July 4th.
I see. So. Got you. Okay. Yeah, I would say still that's very aggressive, because I mean the way we saw that, we had on-site team also, but then the off-site team would just create a template code program, and then most of the work again could be done on-site. But typically at least 4 months, I would say, for any RF transaction to be ready for production deployment as such. Of course, we'll combine them, but generally that's the trend. So, what about you, Prasad?
Hey, Kumar, you're asking me?
Yeah, I was asking, have you been exposed to RF?
Yeah. Like we do RF work. Like I worked on RF programming. So yeah, we developed a lot of transactions.
So you know that, like it's a challenging task just to work on RF as far as WM goes, correct? Means time consuming, not challenging. I would say time consuming, because the needs to be thoroughly tested and before you deploy it. And usually RF is one of the key areas, because all your picking is going from there. Your shipping gets delayed, and it directly impacts your key figures. So people look at it very carefully.
Yeah, right. I agree that.
Especially performance.
Exactly.
If it is little bit slow, it is not good.
Yeah. Period. And picking, that's the core area, like performance area for any warehouse. How fast you are shipping, how many units you're shipping, what is the number of delivery process. So those are the core things. So basically what they have done in EWM, they have taken out a lot of this development related work. So you could see, quite a few processes are handled out of the box. So that means the requirement for that custom coding will be very less. Of course, we cannot go into that much detail when we do the class, but as a concept, if you know the WM side of it, you will be able to appreciate, how much lesser work it is. Okay, so that's pretty much. So let's take a look at the menu side of it a little more. So you guys are likely to get your logins by tomorrow? The system logins? So other big difference is, the monitor itself. So basically the monitor, as you know, LL01 has literally nothing, right? Hello?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying LL01 has very limited functionality. So here monitor is one of the core things. So basically, the user would be spending, I would say, almost all of his time in the monitor. So it's not only just like an area to fix the problems like your open TOs, TRs, negative stock, or your like delayed TRs and just things like those, but it is to process all the inbound, outbound, internal, physical inventory, everything pretty much.
Okay.
As you can see outbound is there, inbound, PI, your stocks are here, resource management, labor management, pretty much everything is here. And of course we have yard management also integrated here, and basically that gets connected to your warehouse, and again that's visible, whatever your TUs are, vehicles are, they get pulled up in the monitor for further execution. The creation part is done outside, so creating of deliveries or creation of warehouse tasks, that's done outside of this monitor, but the execution, the confirmation, or changing parameters, changing queues and things like those, they are done all literally here. Any questions?
Hey Kumar, do you have any kind of presentation where explaining the hierarchy and all this stuff?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Because I'm unable to follow, like you're going through the different components, right? So I'm unable to connect each of these because.
Yeah, I don't know what your exact status is, but at some point of time, basically the way we will work through is, like I said, I give the control to you, and then I walk you through each day. Like for example, that's why I was asking you that if you're going to get control of you're going to get access to server tomorrow or not. So if you get the access, so basically you yourself will be going through the process, creating storage type, section, bin, warehouse, etc. So one day you are doing it, next day Partha is doing, so whatever the number of students are there. So I typically rotate the on-hands exercise between them. So that way, each one of them is keeping pace, it's doing on-hands, and it's not like a monologue that I'm speaking and you're listening. So it's on-hands, and of course, one of the key requirements to that is that you have to keep pace with the class. So if you fall out, and like let's say today you did the process, and Partha did not follow it up and did not copy the same things over to his warehouse tomorrow, then he would not be able to build the flow on top of it further, right, the next time around. So that way, kind of it's better that you keep pace with the class, and then I mean, you won't have that trouble right now. Basically, today is your first day, so we should not be expecting you to understand everything. As far as your books or presentation go, we don't have a specific book, but Naveen will give you the SAP material. So pretty much everything will be in it, and that's the kind of flow we follow. Of course, we do not cover everything, but we cover most of the essential parts, so that you are able to later on replicate or change or play around with it.
Okay.
Did I answer? Yeah.
So it means from tomorrow onwards you're going to start with the basic warehouse setup and
Correct.
structure and hierarchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not doing it today because you don't have access. Otherwise, that's what we would have done.
Yeah, I see that because you both are WM guys, so you're correlating with the WM, so that's why I have a little bit difficulty in following and matching up with the WM terms. So.
No, you are okay. I mean, I asked you. That's why I asked you a couple of questions. You're not going to have trouble catching up.
Okay.
If it was a technical guy, yes, the other person who was with you, that's what I recommended to him also, that he should do some other, any functional module. Doesn't matter which one you do. So if you're familiar with it or you have a techno-functional, then it's not a problem. You should be fine. I mean, if you know whatever I've understood, you should not have trouble. Of course, Partha can pick up a little faster. That's another story. But then if you're putting in more hours than him on practice, then you're at par, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no matter whether who it is, even if I am in EWM for several years, if I don't touch that for like, let's say 3 months or 4 months, 5 months, I'll be out of touch too.
Right, I totally agree with that. So, so whenever I have some question, I'll ask you, interrupt you. So please bear with me.
No problem. Absolutely, there's not a problem at all with that part.
Thank you.
Yeah, but obviously, the better is to start the actual on-hands once you have the access rather than today. Because if I do, then again we have to just repeat it anyways tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I saw one other guy come in. Not sure. Hello, who's this? Koduri? Did someone join in, right? Let me check with Naveen. Hello? Yeah, someone's still, I don't know, I see. Did you guys see someone by the name of Koduri joining?
I didn't see any pop-up.
Yeah, we have one more extra person, looks like. You have 5 besides 3, 4, 5. Yeah. He's not joining. One sec, bear with me. Okay, so I guess basically I think it makes then sense to resume tomorrow unless you guys have any questions, because once you have system access then only it's more useful. Or you want me to continue and go over any other things? But it's like, you know, Prasad said, it may not make a lot of sense as such.
Or if you can just explain the structure on the system, I mean, we not going through, just give some overview on I mean, if you think that anyhow it will be covered tomorrow, that's fine. Otherwise,
yeah, it will be covered. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. It's, see, what you understand by doing on hands is nothing compared to theory or concepts.
okay, yeah, that's good, Kumar. Yeah. Uh, actually, what I was asking you is like in our companies, like when we give some training, we prepare some PowerPoint, right? So we go by that PowerPoint. Like I thought you will be having some kind of course schedule, something. You have topic-wise some material. I thought that's why I asked you, is there any PPT?
Yeah, no, we don't follow that because, see, we basically for this particular class, we are not really dealing with freshers, right? For example, if you're doing an SD class or MM class, then you have freshers who don't know anything about SAP. Then your first class is how to navigate through SAP. So that way we just go on hands, and basically you will get those SAP certification material, and that you can, you know, in parallel read and get your concepts. You know what material we have, right, for SAP certification from SAP? You familiar with that, both of you?
Yeah.
Partha?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was mute. You mean the SAP? I saw a couple of times, you know, the word dump, I think, from whatever SAP teaches, right? That's
Correct, correct. Yeah, exactly. So that's the pattern we follow, and so you'll have EWM 100 and 110. I don't know at what stage maybe after 4 or 5 classes, Naveen will pass it on to you. But basically, if you take it like on day 1, it becomes a little overwhelming. But then that's something, if you have a little feel of it, the system, then you start reading, then it is easier to follow. Otherwise, you read more than what we are teaching, so you are jumping ahead of the class schedule. So, I mean, for you guys, it might be okay, Partha, but not for Prasad as such.
So you follow that material, I mean, in the sequence
Yeah,
of
kind of. I mean, like I said, we don't cover 100% of it, but roughly, I would say over 50% to 60%. You can easily relate to it because whatever exercises we'll do in the system, you can easily see the same thing in the document.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Another question not related to this. Durga, have you taken certification in India at all or no? Or tried?
Me?
No, I'm talking to Durga, I think, right? The other person?
Durga?
Yeah.
I think Partha is asking you something.
Yeah, Partha.
Have you tried, or do you know the process of taking certification in India?
I don't know. I mean, you can take certification in India, right?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
recently
know.
I heard like you cannot give certification without attending course.
Yeah, that's what I knew from 15 years ago, but I don't know if it has changed.
I think most of the people go to Bangkok to give certification. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's some issue. SAP changed its policy, I think. I heard from my friend who works for SAP in India. So I think only SAP employees can give certification in India without attending the course.
Yeah, that's what my understanding is to the same what he said, but I wasn't sure that if things had changed over the several years.
Yeah.
Of course, in
Otherwise,
US you don't need that. You can just walk in, no matter what your background is, and give it. They want your money. That's it.
yeah. Last week, one of my colleague gave EWM certification and he passed. Well, he's an SAP EWM guy with 10 years experience. He read those SAP material. He gave me those material as well. So
Right. So if
yeah.
you're thorough with that and you're on hand, it's not tough. Which one did he do? 9 or 7?
I did not ask that. He did application. What is that? First level certification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little easier because then they are basically concentrating on your EWM.
Okay.
But when you give professional, then they deal with your actual business scenarios. There are a lot of questions related to that, and then they ask you LE, MM, WM, everything they can ask you. Of course, when we are going through the course, in between, I indirectly will refer. This is an important area from certification perspective. I'm not allowed to directly tell that. This was the question in certification and all, but indirectly, because in US, the laws are very strict, right?
Tomorrow same time then?
Sorry?
Tomorrow same time then?
Yeah, same time. And I hope you guys get the access. Then only makes sense. I'm not sure why Naveen didn't give you, but
I saw the email. I'm downloading the GUI right now actually.
Oh, okay, you got it. Okay. Yeah, basically I think it will be worthwhile to put some effort to get your access, because then we can start really working on those actual on-hand scenario.
So the other person joining, is he also WM functional or?
Actually, there are like a couple of more guys who might join in next week. So they are like combined, technical, functional, same background as yours, I would say.
Okay.
Not one guy is strongly functional, that might also join. So his schedule is not known to us, but you know he's again a thoroughly experienced guy. So I think we are okay as long as we don't have a totally technical guy. It should not matter. But if we have a totally technical guy, then I mean, we'll be honest, then we have to slow down our pace, which even I don't like at times. So that's why I've started asking, you know, upfront what your background is. Okay. Unless you guys have any question, then we'll just wrap it for today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Durga. Thank you, Prasad, and thank you, Partha. We'll meet tomorrow. Okay. Bye.
Yep. Okay. Tomorrow same time, Kumar?
Yeah, same time.
Okay.
Wait a second. For the guy in India, Partha and Naveen, your timings will change from tomorrow.
So
You're familiar with that, right?
So it's going to be 1 hour.
1 hour early.
Early?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now the difference between India time and US time is, let's say in Eastern zone about 1.5 hours, and that's going to be 2.5 hours from tomorrow. So which means you'll be backwards, if I'm not mistaken, correct, by 1 hour.